be with Luigi Ballerini, and welcome to Turkey, firstly.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasure.
We will talk about your books in Turkish today. My first question will be about La Signorina Europhobia, Maestra Paticera, and L'estate de Nico. In Turkish names, Parlak Fikirler Pastası and Doğaya Fısıldayan Çocuklar. In both of your books, you have empathetic child characters with strong communication skills. Both stories include characters who stand up against prejudice. Both stories, your emphasis on the concepts of prejudice and empathy is very valuable. Why do you think it's so important to work on these two concepts in children's books?
Yeah, this concept, which are empathy and prejudices, are important not in children books, but are important in children, And this is something I would say it's not a kind of belief, but it's something I see in children. When you have a prejudice, it means that you divide the universe of people in two parts, us and them. Mm-hmm. And this is something that children don't do. They really like to stay with everybody. And even if they make war, they are able to make peace quite rapidly. So when you see a character which has empathy and has no prejudice, I believe it's the real child, the real kid, and it is so important. Maybe this is something that we should learn from the youngers. It's something that we should consider, that we are not going to divide us and them, but we are just together, working together and building a better world together.
Okay, your answer is nice transition for my next question. Ayo Sono Zero, its Turkish names Adı Sıfır. It's a completely different novel compared to your other two novels we just spoke about. It's about an extraordinary young man living in his sheltered world, unaware of the outside world, and his journey of transition to the real world, discovering many emotions. I really wonder about your creation process of the character in Ayo Sono Zero.
Oh, yeah. When I meet the young readers, they always ask me, did you write this book because you wanted to tell us that we should not stay on our cellular mobile phone too much? Okay. Did you want to say us that we have too much screen time in our day? And I say, no, this is not the case. I just sometimes it happens to me that I try to understand how do we know reality. How do we get knowledge of reality? And there is a temptation in this time, in our time, nowadays, there is a temptation that we believe that we can know reality just by image. And that's not the case. I truly believe that the knowledge of the others, that means our internal world, our external world, comes through experience. Maybe this is even more important now after the pandemic age, I would say, and period, because we have been so much in front of a screen, and there is a risk that we are missing the opportunity really to connect with others in the real world. So my first inspiration was which was the name of the movie, The Truman Show. The Truman Show. Have you seen it?
Yes.
I mean, it's very popular, and this was my very inspiration, because if you consider the movie, Truman lived in a very fake world. Then he discovered that everything is fake, so he's struggling to get out. And the end of the movie is just that he is getting out. Okay. And anytime I see that movie, I ask myself, how would Truman live outside? Would you enjoy it? Would you prefer to go back? to the fake but safe world. Actually, Io Sono Zero starts exactly when the Truman Show movie ends. So Zero understands that it's not actually understanding. He just found himself outside this fake world, and the question is, how would he feel? What would he prefer? And especially the name, the question, who did it? Such a terrible things to a boy. But it's really a book and a story which I hope helps people to understand that we really need to reconnect with reality in the real world. So bodies who can run, who can embrace, who can fight, and they make peace.
Okay. How would you evaluate the continuously increasing production of new works or books in children's and young adult literature and the increasing interest of authors to produce for this field?
You're right, there is an increasing production for children. I should be happy, but I see some risks. First of all, if I should be honest in this question, in this answer, okay, I will be honest. Okay, there is a risk. First of all, that someone can believe that the children literature is the entry door to literature, to become a writer. So you start with children, then you make the jump, the jump to the real world, to the real literature, which is the adult one. And this is not the case, okay? And the second one is that someone could believe that it's easier to write for children. There is an Italian writer who, I love him. His name is Dino Buzzati, and he wrote, writing books for children is exactly the same as writing books for adults, but it's much more difficult. I like to quote Buzzati because there is a temptation that is believing that you just put a witch, a dragon, some silly things that you remember from the fairy tales of your childhood, and it's done. It's much more complex. So to answer to your question, it's good that the production increased, but I hope that this production will be a quality production and not just a quantity production.
Okay. You are an author who works with young people, also as a psychiatrist. I'm curious about your views on self-censorship in the children's literature. As an author, what do you think about the moralistic approach of parents and educators in terms of genre, theme, and word selection? How do you write your books in this context?
Actually, I'm a medical doctor. I studied a lot of psychoanalysis, so this helps me also in understanding the thinking of the youngers. Okay, the question you're putting on the table is really it's really a hard one, because the self-censorship is something that it's a risk in the air for writers who dedicate their books to children and to the youngers. I believe that you can write everything for children. You should not anticipate too much topics, because it's not a matter of censorship, it's just a matter of there are some topics that arise with the growth. There is no need to anticipate them just because they're not interesting for the previous ages. So you need to know your readers, you need to know the interests of the different ages, but you can really talk about everything. We should not be scandalized by books with contradictions, with enemies, with not happy ending, okay? Because this is life. And books helps youngers to live, to understand the reality and to understand the others. There is a point that for me is so important, which is it doesn't matter what are you talking about, but in a books for children and for kids, there should be at the end a light of, a kind of light that for me is hope, you know? So you can put on the stage contradiction, conflicts, also bad things, but at the end of the day, at the end of the story, there should be a kind of opening, a kind of hope. Children and kids do not need the polite books, but they do not need desperate books. So we need to help them to stay in the reality, to live a good life, to understand contradiction and conflicts, and to solve them.
Let's give the good news to your readers. Your fourth book in Turkish, Mira Satutto, will soon be published. A novel with the dystopian flavor like Iosono Zero awaits its readers. In the past, when the word dystopia was mentioned, the works of a group of writers such as Orwell and Huxley came to mind. But we see that this theme has been handled a lot, especially in the last 20 years, both in cinema and the literature. Why do you think there is an increasing interest in dystopic works? Can we talk about the contribution of the current problems of the world and humanity?
I love dystopia. I love dystopic movies. I like reading dystopic books and writing dystopic books. There is a big difference between dystopia and science fiction. Science fiction is something that you invent, something that doesn't exist. Dystopia has the kind of looks in the actual world, in the reality, right now, discover something and put them at the extreme. It's a way to say, this is something which is already in our world, but we can reach that point, you know? So I'm convinced that dystopia can help the readers to better understand reality. I think there is a value in proposing dystopia to youngers because the story has not been written yet. So giving this kind of stories to the youngers means, look, now we are here, we could be there, but it's up to you. So I love to think that it's kind of giving a feeling, a sense about where we could go in order that they can choose where we should go. And maybe they can influence the future. So there is a meaning in writing and proposing dystopia to children and to kids, and actually they love it. Maybe because they feel that they will be part of this future, and we need to tell them, you not only will be part of this future, but you will build this future. And so build it in the best way possible.
So, is it your first time in Turkey? What are your first impressions of Istanbul?
Oh, it's not my first time in Istanbul. I've been plenty of times in Istanbul, and the reason for which I've been plenty of times in Istanbul is because I love the city. It's such a magical city, and I feel Turkish people very close to my culture. I don't see many differences between Italians and Turkish. Maybe I need to discover them, but there is a lot of warmth, and people like to stay together. Very friendly. Such a historical place. How many people, how many stories have been there. So I love to be here.
Your Turkish readers are able to reach you thanks to social media, and you are able to follow them too. What would you like to say about your relationship with them?
Oh, it's a great relationship, and this is something that maybe the writers for adults don't understand. That writing for children and kids means having a very, very special audience. Sometimes if they discover a mistake in the book, they immediately tell you. If there is something that they don't like in the book, I mean, they immediately write to you. If there is an ending which is too open, they're just asking you a sequel. So social media are really a good way to connect with them, especially with the youngers, and they are so honest, and they never lie, and they really. I love them because you should trust them. If they say I love your book, it's true, but they can say I hate your book, and having such an honest reader really help us and helps me to be a better writer.
Okay. Do you have any writing ritual while you are working? Writing ritual and.
Sorry, if I.
Do you have any writing ritual?
Oh, no.
No.
No. My ritual is that I can write almost everywhere at any time. There are some colleagues of mine that I know that they need, for example, 2 hours up front in a quiet place, and so they start writing. Actually, I can write if I have only 10 minutes left, I can write them almost anywhere, even in the lobby of a hotel, okay, or on a plane, or on a train, or in my house. But this is something I say to my young readers. If you are going to become a writer, you will find your way, There is no one way to be a writer. So find your way. Maybe you need more concentration and silence, or maybe you can even be more inspired if you are in a crowded place.
What are your favorite genres?
Okay. I tend to write the type of books that I like to read. So definitely dystopia, and thrillers, and realistic stories. I'm really interested or in something that helps us understand our present time, so realistic current stories, or the future.
Okay, thank you for joining us. I'm very happy to meet you, and it's a great experience for me. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for your question, which really exploring, the world of the books for children and kids and how it works. So thank you so much.